Hi. Now we're into chapter 4, week 4 on family sociology, and we're going to be looking at marriage. In our society, many families are formed through marriage. And in Canada, the only legal kind of marriage is one based on monogamy. A current alternative to marriage is unmarried or cohabitation, and it's increasingly popular. Since 2005, same-sex marriages have also been illegal in Canada. Now, people marry for all sorts of reasons, and we're going to look at some of these factors that affect this decision. This chapter concludes with a look at marital and relational happiness and long-lasting marriages. So let's get started. As you're probably aware, wedding ceremonies are different around the world. Ceremonies can be universal, marriages, they are sort of universal. However, in almost all cultures, it's a mark of marriage is some sort of a ceremony. However, what that ceremony is going to look like, what's worn, who's invited, this is all going to be varied, and it's from culture to culture. Sociologists have suggested that a wedding ceremony has two primary functions. Now, one, public acknowledgement of the creation of a new family. Now, historically, it's significant to introduce the couple to the community and the community to the new couple. Secondly, the ritual organized by the family, marking changes in status and roles among the family members, moving from a family of orientation to a family of procreation. Now, also, the role of son or daughter doesn't disappear. However, we do gain new roles and statuses: husband and wife, mother, father. So again, historically, the family has been central organizational unit in almost all societies. In Canada, the proportion of married people has been declining over the past decades, while the proportion of those who divorce or those who never married have been increasing. Cohabitation is becoming more acceptable among young adults, and it's mentioned in the introduction that same-sex marriages has been legal since 2005. Now, marriage has both legal and social recognitions of a union. The legal portion involves both the provincial and the federal governments. Provinces manage marriages and divorces, and the federal responsibility are the connecting the two via acts. Now, the first act is the Marriage or Prohibitive Degrees Acts. This identifies people like your brothers and sisters who you cannot marry as they are too closely related to you. The second is the Civil Marriage Act, which defines marriage as a union of two people at the exclusion of all others. There's the monogamy. Now, in societies such as Canada, in which there's a high rate of divorce and remarriage, sociologists have coined the term serial monogamy to describe a series of marriages to different partners, although only one at a time. Now, there are other terms and forms of unions which are not legal in Canada. However, they are in other countries. Marriage of one person to two or more people of the opposite sex is known as polygamy. And there are other forms, polygyny, sororal polygyny, and maternal polygyny. Polyamory, or are relationships where individuals have more than one intimate partner with the condition that they are not married and that those who are involved have consent for all partners. Now, although the majority of couples in Canada will marry, there are other alternative living arrangements in Canada. And as I've mentioned already in the introduction, cohabitation, which is also known as common law. It's a relationship where the partners live together, but they're not married. This, for some time, has been seen as a trial run to marriage. However, many others, it's an alternative to marriage. They commit to each other and have and raise kids. Now, another form is what's known as LAT, L-A-T, living apart together. Now here, lots see themselves as a couple. However, they don't live together. This represents about 5 to 8% of the overall Canadian population of relationships. Why would anyone want to live apart while engaged in an intimate relationship? Well, it could be for both people. They could be completing school. It could be their careers are in two different cities and far apart. There's a number of different reasons. Check the infographic in 4.1 infographic there. Marriage is still the most predominant family structure in Canada. However, it's slipping. 2011, 67% were married, and it's been going down since then. Sociologists use the term marriage rate to describe the measure of marriages that occur within a given year, excluding common law, excluding already existing marriages. These are just brand new marriages of that particular year. In 2008, 147,288 marriages were performed in Canada at 4.4 marriages per 1,000 people. The marriage rate is the lowest it's been since the past century. Social, economic, and legal factors determine age at which people can marry. For example, after the Great Depression, the rate reached almost 11 marriages per 1,000 people. Now, this could have been a result of uncertainty of war, men rushing out to get married before they went to war. There are other peaks of marriages. In the 1970s, as the baby boomer generation entered adulthood. Today, first marriages occur later in life, based on a woman's greater education levels and poor opportunities for young workers. An increase in the proportion of couples living together, cohabitating, before marriage. In 2016, 45.2% of couples were married. 54.8% were common law. They were unmarried, so that included cohabitation, divorced, separated, widowed, and never married. So that was 61% were married, 39% unmarried, and that was in 1981. So let's consider the law in marriage. Now, marriage is a legal contract governed by law. And in Canada, both partners must be 18 years of age, 19 in BC. Now, you may marry at age 16 with parental consent. Now, other restrictions include limitations as who you can marry. Now, again, in your textbook on the box 4.2, you'll see an example, most of which I'm sure you're fully supportive of. Marriage of convenience is a marriage where the sole purpose for the spouse is to immigrate, and it is legal in Canada. Now, as marriage is a legal agreement, some couples draw up a prenuptial agreement or a marriage contract. It's a legal document that alters the effect of the law, usually as it applies to property. Now, often it is an agreement. Who gets what, and should the relationship come to an end. Now, if common law couples break up, the rights to assets are often not well defined by law, and as a result, some sign a cohabitation agreement. Now, we can touch on mixed unions in same-sex marriages, where marriages are growing as a part of society generally, with greater diversity in Canada. It's not surprising mixed couples in which one spouse or partner is a member of a visible minority group and the other is not, as well as couples comprised of two different visible minority groups. In 2011, nearly 4.6% of the Canadian population were mixed unions. Mixed union couples that are younger are better off educationally and economically and are more likely to live in large urban areas. Now, why are mixed union marriages better educated, you might ask? Well, education helps immigrants and their children adapt to the dominant culture, and education reduces the likelihood of remaining in an ethnic enclave, thus having the chance to meet a much more diverse group, and then the particular neighborhood where everyone is more of the same, and that's what an enclave is. Now, same-sex marriages have been legal in Canada since July 20th, 2005. The number of same-sex marriages, married couples, nearly tripled from 2006 to 2011, and same-sex common law couples increased by 15%. Now, legal marriage enables some same-sex couples to gain the legal recognition and the benefits, the same as the marriage between heterosexual marriages. It opens the door to better understanding by others, as they can use the terms that heterosexual couples use, things like marriage, spouse, daughter-in-law, wife, husband, sort of a normalizing of the same-sex couple. Same-sex couples also tend to be more egalitarian as the division of labor is concerned, and that just means that there's more an equal sharing of household responsibilities. Now, we are socialized to regard marriage as superior to all other kinds of relationships, like the non-sexual friendships, domestic partnerships, long-term cohabitation, single-parent families. However, there are very many different sorts of unions and other than marriage. So why do we marry? What's the attraction to marriage? Well, we can look at a few things. Status. Marriage can give us a sense of belonging, a sense of a place in society. Marriage provides an enforceable trust, a legal provision for support, and the sexual fidelity that provided by the couple and a degree of security. Economics, as another term, as another reason, money is not usually the main reason to marry. However, it is a consideration. You need money to raise children. You need money for your lifestyle. So do either partner want additional education? Well, how does the couple want to live? Buy a home or rent? So economics is really important. They need to have the economic means to achieve and attain what their family needs to succeed. Thirdly, sex. Marriage provides regulations concerning sexual behavior, limiting sexual relations to an exclusive partner, avoiding adultery, which is grounds for divorce. Partners have the right to sexual access to one another, to be treated kindly, to expect faithfulness, and to use family assets. Children. Well, marriages with children, partners have a responsibility to support each other and other children they may have. This support is to promote success, financial support, educational and psychological support for the children. Identity. Being married is an important part of one's identity. It used to be expected that a woman would take her husband's name. However, today, that's not necessarily so. Depending on which province you live in can have an impact. Some of the family's identity is to describe who is our family and who is an outsider. Who are we? Our traditions, our beliefs, values, what makes us us and what makes them them. So for the most part, marriage equals commitment. The emotional support, the idea of romantic love. Even if there are troubles and unfailing love and support are still at the foundation of the relationship and the basis for addressing troubles and enabling the rapport. The communication is to sustain a healthy relationship. Okay, so what we should probably do to get a better handle in regards to our sociological perspectives, what do they see marriage as being? And we're going to start with the feminists. Now, they see that that generally women are exploited by men through marriage. This was particularly the issue in Victorian era, where women trade childbearing and household family care for the financial support and status that was provided by the man. Now, things are much different from then, today. However, there are vestiges of this in today's families from the feminist perspective. Symbolic interactionalists, they, as usual, are the guys that look at the face-to-face, day-to-day interactions between spouses. And they look at the meaning and the manner the couple communicate, how they resolve conflicts, how they merge their individual family backgrounds and their traditions into their own family, the family of procreation. The structural functionalists, well, they see the family as having the separate roles of men and women, the division of labor, the functions that ensure that the survival of the family is at hand. Until the 1970s, most of their assumptions were based on the standard North American family. Now, this may not hold as much water with the emergence of alternative family types. And it's considered our sort of conservative view of family, the structural functionalists. Conflict, it looks at how marriage can create and maintain social inequities, depending on where one stands, for example, on the social class, whether you're upper class, middle class, or lower class. Ethnicity and religion may influence a family's access to resources from the conflict perspective. Now, the developmental perspective, they argue that there are 4 tasks to accomplish in order to make the transition to a successful marriage. 1, establish identity, the me to we. 2, define their boundaries of what is family. 3, maintain the household. And 4, manage the relationship. So here, by developing the we-ness, the expectation is that they are able to depend on themselves and satisfy their needs. Now, the ecological model, it suggests the couple and their individual microsystems need to reorganize to the best fit of the new relationship. Now, this can include the how frequently family of orientation occurs, an involvement of each other's friends and family of orientation, traditions and celebrations. It's just pointing out that as we move forward in family is dynamic and it's fluid. It doesn't stay static as easily as we might have thought. So this is the end of part 1. And in part 2, we're going to explore cohabitation in common law, marriage happiness, along with marital problems. And we'll also consider marriage and the future. So carry on the good fight, and we'll see you in part 2.